Yo, what's happening guys, King GBL here, and welcome back to a brand new Great Lake video. Today I'm going to be showcasing an original team that I came up with yesterday, featuring Trevenant, Dunsparce and Dewgong. This team is basically full of core breakers for the most common lines that you're going to see in the Great Lake. With this team, I was basically hunting for the most common core, which is Skarmory and Whiscash currently. Trevenant is very unique in the fact that it's basically the only grass type that can beat Skarmory. Of course, the grass types with superpower can do quite well into Skarmory. However, Trevenant can straight up beat Skarmory in the one shield scenario, so it's a very unique grass type in that respect. Trevenant is actually ranked number 1 for performance in PvPoke. Guys, by the way, in this match I made a big mistake here. I should have just went for the extra rollout. My rollout damage would have applied before the Incinerate applied. I ended up throwing the charge attack. I was playing these battles after midnight last night, so a little bit less optimal. I think what tends to happen to me quite a lot is, for my first set or two, I tend to make some mistakes and then start to play a little bit better as the time goes on. The opponent comes into the Quagsire again, and this should be pretty close. I think I do end up having to call a bait here. We're up 2 shields, the opponent has a lot of energy. Stone Edge me daddy, if you want to win this match, throw the Stone Edge bro. Didn't think so. Anyway guys, we're going to hop on into the battles. Before we do, as always guys, please drop a like in the video, subscribe if you do enjoy the content, and if you do decide to try this team, let me know in the comment section down below how it goes for you. I came up with this team yesterday because I was seeing a lot of Skarmory and Whiscash cores, and I have been, of course, for the last couple of months I guess. This whole season has been Skarmory and Whiscash. Trevenant of course beats Whiscash, and it can beat actually Talonflame as well. In the zeros you can just about one-shot it with Shadow Ball. Dewgong can do well against Talonflame and Skarmory. It beats Skarmory and it also beats Whiscash. So we have 2 Pokemon on our team already that straight up beat Whiscash and can beat Skarmory. And then we have Dunsparce. I thought Dunsparce had a great utility in this team. If you think about the Skarmory and Whiscash core, oftentimes it's paired with things like Lantern. Dunsparce does fantastically there. On the lead we have Trevenant. Trevenant is weak to flying. It's also weak to ghost type attacks, and it's weak to fire. Dunsparce absolutely destroys Lickitung and does very well against the ghosts. It has great coverage with Drill Run and Rock Slide. Rock Slide for the flyers, and of course Drill Run for the fire types. It is weak to counter, so Trevenant and Dunsparce cover each other's weaknesses perfectly. Now moving on to Dewgong, a Pokemon that's also weak to counter, which weaknesses are covered by Trevenant. It has fantastic bulk, can spam out Icy Wind, and of course Drill Run, which gives you that extra coverage once again against fire and flyers. And from this particular matchup that you're watching with Vigoroth, you guys can see the power of Dewgong. It's so bulky. After that Icy Wind debuff, it actually survived that 1 HP. And what we're going to do in this matchup right here is farm this the whole way down with Trevenant. As I mentioned, Trevenant basically guarantees to get a shield off Talonflame if you want to play it that way. So look at the situation, we've got almost 2 Shadow Balls. I'll do 2 for good timing. That puts us up to 100 energy. Now what I decide here is I'm maybe not going to live the next Incinerate, so we're going to do 1 Shadow Claw and swap on into Daddy Dunsparce. That means I'm only 1 more Shadow Claw away from a Shadow Ball, meaning I don't have to take the Incinerate damage to get off my charge attack whenever the Talonflame comes back. The opponent comes into a Whiscash, and this looks like it's great, but it is a little bit tricky. We have to manage this situation, and we need to absolutely hope the opponent does not overfarm too much. They go for Scald, of course debuffing our attack. Now I'm hoping here that 2 of these moves are still threatening enough that if they don't further energy, I'll be able to just basically farm them down with Trevenant. The opponent decides, okay, we need to get rid of the Dunsparce before they get us too low, and I think the opponent's definitely made a mistake here. We're going to go for CMP on 5 Shadow Claws here, and we're basically going to hope that we can get to the moving time here. We've done an extra 5, can we get to it in 1? We do get to it in 1 Shadow Claw. I may just by the skin of my teeth have survived that Incinerate, however I'm happy not to risk it. That ended up working out perfectly, and we're going to hop into the next match. You're going to see in this video that I had a pretty decent fair share of good leads and bad leads. I got a few flyer leads, which of course are a little bit awkward. Now the opponent comes into their Dunsparce here. What I decide to do is chip and dip here. My Dunsparce is pretty unique in a pretty bad way, in the fact that it never wins CMP against opposing Dunsparces. I think I've got the lowest possible attack on this Dunsparce. It's not quite the rank 1, I think it's a 1-14-12. The rank 1's a 1-14-13. It's a very high ranked Dunsparce, never wins CMP, so it is a pretty unfortunate one. I was hoping with that chip that I would be able to basically take them out, hoping a Seed Bomb does more than a Drill Run. However, I don't think it really works out that way. The opponent's going to start shielding here, and I think I end up deciding to let this go. Oh no, I end up shielding here, and I think they get off another move. Yeah, and of course they win CMP. So yeah, I could have maybe just let the first move go. However, I will get a farm down with Trevenant. You're going to see a few times in this video, Trevenant up 3 or 4 Shadow Claws can do insane things in this league. Yeah, we get about 3 Shadow Claws through there, and back in comes Skarmory here. In comes Skarmory, this is the core that we're hunting for. Skarmory and Wisdaddy Cash. I thought it was quite funny that I started seeing Dunsparce. I think I ended up seeing 3 Dunsparce and like 2 Dewgongs yesterday. I have not seen a single Dunsparce in weeks, if not months, and similar to Dewgong, it's a Pokemon I don't see very often. But of course we do start getting matched up with them with our Dunsparce and Dewgong team. As you can see, that almost one-shots the Skarmory, and we're going to come into our Dewgong. In the zeros, this is a pretty comfortable win. We just go for the classic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 debuff, 1, 2, 3, 4 debuff, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 debuff. It's a pretty skillful method of taking out your opponents here, but it is certainly very effective. We did have a bit of a discussion about Icy Wind in the last video. We're not going to go too deep into it today here, but last video, of course, we were showcasing Noctowl. Funny enough, I actually did end up seeing a Noctowl lead on my Trevenant today at some point in the video. And as I mentioned, it was easier for me to beat flyer leads. Safe swapping Dunsparce kind of left opponents in shambles a little bit. They're like, what do I put in here? The opponents did not always have a great answer to the Dunsparce safe swap. But anyway guys, we won that match very comfortably. The Skarmory, I think, died with a move, but even if they got it off in Dugong, we basically just Shadow Claw everything down, and that's a good game. In this battle here, we have a Registeel lead with the Dragonair safe swap. Dragonair just does not be having a good time against Dugong. And we're going to go for this Icy Wind. I think I go for an undercharge, just in case they let it go. They do end up shielding, which I thought was quite funny. And do I let this go? No, I just shield and farm it the whole way down. Dugong with the coverage is kind of nice because we can farm this the whole way down, come out with a drill run, and most likely even get off 2 drill runs on the Reggie. Now what I was sort of expecting here was it to be double dragon, steal in the front, double dragon. I've seen this variation with Skarmory quite a lot. It's kind of like an ABA flyer team. One of the flyers being Skarmory and Dragonite. And the opponent comes into an Altaria here. We do get an Ice Shard Fairy, which of course chips a little bit. And yeah, this should be basically plain sailing. The one thing I don't really like about Dunsparce, and the one thing I've never liked about it is, it never really hits very hard. Like, they just said, like, oh, you're not gonna roll me down. You know, I'm not gonna shield a Rock Slide, bro. And like, look at the Sky Attack, bro. It's like, these Dragon Breaths and Sky Attacks are adding up. This is still quite comfortable, but it's, you know, it's not like a dominant matchup. You know, it doesn't feel that dominant. Because as you're seeing here, like, they're prying away my Fennel Shield. And I certainly look at Dunsparce as more of a safe swap Pokemon, more of a utility Pokemon. I decided here, okay, we're just gonna let this move go. And we're going to basically farm them down the Registeel. They can go for the Zap Cannon. If they farmed up to 100 energy, we can at least do 5 Shadow Claws. I should have just no-shielded the Zap Cannon, but good games doesn't make a difference nonetheless. Hopping into the next one, we have Trevenant versus Sandslash. Very negative lead. We're going to come straight into our Dugong this time. And in comes a Whiscash. This is not an answer. I repeat, folks, this is not an answer. Whiscash is fantastic in this meta. Dugong just shuts it down though. We'll shield up the first move just to be cautious. At this point I decided, okay, I'm going to get off a couple of Icy Winds and take it down. But with the Shadow, we're absolutely chunking through this thing. So I'm starting to wonder here, can I actually just farm this the whole way down? Those Mudbombs are doing nothing. I was trying to throw in good timing and I'm like, yo, at this point I can just farm this the whole way down. Come out with 100 energy. 1 shield for 100 energy in Dugong. The opponent has a Sandslash. They're guaranteed to shield it. They have to show me their third. The opponent's waiting at their timer, and they're coming into Trevenant to a loaded Dugong. The opponent's in a pretty rough spot here. The opponent shields up the first Icy Wind. We're going to go for 1 and 4 for good timing this time. If you have 100 energy, you don't always throw 1 and 4 for good timing. For example, 3 versus 2, if I done 1, I don't get any extra energy, but the opponent gets 2 Shadow Claws instead of 1. So in that situation, you just insta-throw the move. The opponent finally does make a swap out, and Dunsparce just wipes the floor with Sandslash. Shadow Claw's doing nothing. 2 drill runs doesn't even come close to KOing, and the opponent does see the writing on the wall here. It is just basically over. Dunsparce pretty much just core broke that whole team. Dugong lead in the next game, very interesting one here. As I mentioned, I started seeing some Dugongs and Dunsparce, which they're Pokemon I never really see. So I do find that quite interesting that we're running into these here. I come into my own Dugong to try and absorb the energy, and the opponent comes into Trevenant behind on energy. Now you seen in that first matchup, the opponent was inclined to shield because Seed Bomb would do quite a lot, but with their attack debuffed by 25% with the Icy Wind, that really does not do that much and we can farm it the whole way down. At this point guys, Dugong has done a fantastic job. The opponent most likely has a Lantern Answer in the back, so it could be another grass type. It could just be like a fighter or something like that, like something that does pretty neutrally into it. The opponent definitely does need some sort of a check to Lantern. Honestly guys, I'm just going to stay on in here and look to come in with Dunsparce later on. Now this opponent is just absolutely in love with the debuff. They're absolutely horny for the debuff, one might say. When you're using a Pokemon like this, you have to be sort of cognizant of the fact that you're just wasting energy not going for the move. Like, I've shown you that I'm letting this move go, and they go for they go for a drill run this time. Okay. On the one time that I might have decided to shield it, they go for a drill run. And yeah, they're going to go for an Icy Wind on this, and then look to dip into Gligar. I'm not sure if Gligar makes the most sense in the world as a Lantern Answer. It could be like a soft answer, I guess. So yeah, they have Trevenant as a hard answer. Gligar is the soft answer. We come in with our Trevenant, and knowing that we're basically guaranteed to get the shield right, they'll pretty much get farmed down if they let that through. And from here we've got 2 shields. It looks like we're in such a dominant position, but if the opponent successfully lands a bait, which they're most likely going to go for, they could make this very, very tricky. The opponent farmed up an absolute ton. They farmed the Trevenant the whole way down, they got some farm before the left, and we've basically got them into Rock Slide range at this point. Now the opponent has a low health Dugong, They may get to a move, but it's not going to make a difference at this point. They're definitely not going to get to 2. Dugong gets to Icy Wind and Drill Run, 5-4, 5-4. And I believe a rollout is a Snarl clone, so it paces the exact same as Umbreon. And we see the absolute nightmare lead. Noctowl, what season is it? Who made a video on Noctowl? Who was it? What degenerate around here done it? Just let Noctowl die. Just let him die. Leave him alone. Just put away the owl. Put him away. Alright, anyway, the opponent comes into a Claudia. Claudia does not have a great match. She's a bulky girl, but Claudia, she's no match for Daddy Dunsparce. Look at the Stone Edge coming for you, call the bait as well. I was thinking though that probably they should go for double Stone Edge in this matchup anyway, so I don't necessarily think of that as a bait. I do think that a Stone Edge or an Earthquake from here will do a lot, so I decide, okay, Daddy Dunsparce, we're going to shield up and look to go for free and for good timing here. The opponent basically has to show us their third or eat a lot of damage on the Noctowl. Yeah, they decide to shield here, so they're down 2 shields. And I think here, do I need to shield? I decide, yeah, like it's Noctowl, bro, I have to shield. If it was like a Skarmory or a Talonflame, I may have just let it go, but it is literally Noctowl, like I cannot get that lines to my Trevenant. In comes Lantern, they just don't have a good answer to this Pokemon. Dunsparce doing a fantastic job core breaking teams. Back whenever this was a popular core of Noctowl and Lantern, that's whenever Dunsparce was at its peak. The opponent actually gets scared here and froze energy. I think they're on 11 Sparks if I remember correctly. One off the next move. In comes Trevenant, in comes Noctowl, in comes Dugong, and the opponent sees the proverbial writing on the wall. In this next game we have the War of the Trees, but the opponent decides no, we're going to come into our Skelly. Now I learned my mistake from my match earlier. I decide, okay, they have a Trevenant and they're showing another Ghost. Is this some dumb triple Ghost team? But then I realized it could be probably just Talonflame, like, oh, Grass, double Fire. Fire is weak to water, so we'll put a Grass in the lead and 2 Fires. So I decide, okay, we're going to shield the first move, not give them an option to farm us down. It is unfortunate that they live that move, but they basically either have to come into their Fire type or come into Trevenant, neither of which are a good match for them. The Dunsparce is quite low, they come into Trevenant here. Yeah, the opponent's in a bit of a shambles here, they can't exactly go for a catch as well. And that to me just all but confirmed that it is Talonflame in the back. So yeah, I think the opponent, what they decide to do is quite smart. They go for a little bit of farm. I actually go for the swap out, not allowing them to get extra farm, and we get an energy lead on the Talonflame. So we're going to be able to get this move off first, which is very, very helpful in this matchup. The opponent will go for a move here. I think I do let this through. Not expecting a Brave Bird. The opponent goes for Flame Charge, of course. We're going to go for free for good timing here. And I think we're basically in a fine spot. If the opponent lets us through, they're basically screwed. If they don't, what I can end up doing is just farming it down with Trevenant. Yeah, so the opponent's going to go for a move here. I decide, okay, the Trevenant will probably get to a move in the Dugong, so if I shield and take it out, I'll be in a pretty awkward spot. So we're going to farm it the whole way down with Trevenant, and yeah, come out with a Shadow Ball. Good games well played. I hate teams like that. It'd be a week to Sableye. Pidgeot lead, bro, what is this? The algorithm, the opponent's staying in, and they even allow us to throw off the move. What's going on? What's going on? Rockslide coming through, the opponent shields it because it is Pidgeot and they shield everything. Now, I had an inkling that they would go for Brave Bird, but I don't have the heart to shield a potential Feather Dance, which is what they normally go for. In comes Reggie, big Registeel. We're going to go for 2 rollouts here, or sorry, 2 drill runs, which will more or less put it into the red. We're no risk of getting farmed down here. Well, I guess we probably could get farmed down, but the opponent decides, yeah, they're probably going to get to another move. I decide, okay, we need to try and get our Trevenant off this thing. The opponent's already given up a shield. At the very least, if we can get 2 shields here, we might be in a decent enough spot. I aggro swap into Dugong, like, right, okay, if you're going to double shield, I'm going to get an energy lead in Dugong. We're going to have a look and see what's in the back here. If you have a Lantern, at least we'll be ahead by a couple of Ice Shards. They, of course, get the Zap Cannon debuff, but we're coming out here with almost back-to-back Icy Winds. The opponent comes into, was that a Whiscash or a Swampert? Swampert coming in here, Icy Wind number 1 coming through, Icy Wind number 2. That's basically going to allow us to comfortably live the Earthquake and pretty much farm the Shadow Swampert the whole way down. We're debuffed in attack, which is kind of annoying by the Registeel, but we're coming out here with just a ton of energy for the Pidgeot. They've done 10 wing attacks, they should be on 5 now. So they're basically 2 off the Brave Bird, and if they go for Brave Bird here, we can basically just Shadow Ball it, and because we've debuffed them so much, they're just in a very, very bad spot. Good games well played. I don't think the opponent had to top left there, could have still got dicey, but speaking of which, we do have a pretty dicey lead. Now, I've decided the opponent comes into a Toxapex, bro. I was like, huh? What? Trainer! This is not an answer. This is not an answer. Number 1 comes through. Now, at this point, while farming up here, I was just contemplating, do I need to shield up the Sludge Bomb or not? If I no shield it, can they just go straight Brine? Which the answer is yes. But can they farm me down? I decided to let it through, and I'm happy I let that go, because they can't really farm us down without taking 2 more moves. Actually, I think they could have. I think the opponents made 2 mistakes here. They came into that thing, and they also did not fight for swap. The opponent comes into Deoxys, kind of insane that they would just take that alignment. I guess it did not want to go down a shield with Dragonair, because that's a pretty awkward spot to be in. But the opponent goes for a Psycho Boost, I shield up the first one, and pretty much what I'm trying to do is burn down the Switch Clock, and I'm trying to like eat as much damage here as possible, so that Dugong does not get a huge farm down, and so I can also come out with energy for the Dugong. So yeah, I'm just basically trying to eat as much damage here as possible, and committing to the Shadow Claw down. I'm going to go for straight back-to-back Seed Bombs here on this thing. I don't even have to go for the thing. I don't want to risk it, bro. Sometimes you do that extra Shadow Claw, and the Dragon Breaths take you out, so I'm just throwing double Seed Bomb. If they let it go, it's still going to do a lot of damage, and just put them into a perfect farm down range for Dugong. So yeah, it's basically game over either way. The opponent's going to go for a Body Slam. I don't need to shield this here, and I sort of was curious to see how much damage this would do. So it does about 25%, I want to say, plus Dragon Breaths, those certainly add up. So 2 Body Slams plus Dragon Breaths probably gets that done for them. Good games well played, and yeah, once again, not the most positive lead in the world, but we're able to overcome it. Now, here's the problem, Bastiodon. Can we overcome this team? What's going to be in the back? What is going to be in the back of this? Well, I would probably put my house, my life savings, my life, on the fact that it's probably going to be Shadow Victreebel and Wigglers in the back. Now, against these sort of teams, whenever you sort of know what the team is, and you don't really have a direct answer to what's in the back, you sort of want to try and shield where you can. Keeping health on your Pokemon in these sort of matchups is very, very important. So I decide, okay, yeah, we just shield the Trevenant, nice and simple, get off Shadow Balls, try to farm it down, come out with energy, and try to sort of dance around this team a little bit. Because Dugong, while it's got the Ice type coverage, doesn't really have the most amazing matchup in the world against the Victreebel. The opponent has shielded up a Drill Run, which is quite nice here, and we can actually even get off another one. This could be quite vital, and hopefully this is going to set us up here. Now I'm going to come into Dugong, try to get ahead in energy, because ahead in energy, we can look to apply the debuff. They basically have to shield us now, and as you guys might remember, we farmed down the Bastiodon, we can come in with Trevenant, get to the Shadow Ball, look to basically one-shot it, and yeah, from here, this should be basically game over. We do have quite low health on the Dugong, as you can see the Vic absolutely ripped through it. The opponent will even get off a move here. They shouldn't throw this move, they should just commit to the farm down. They go for Disarming Voice, they should have at least went for Icy Wind, but yeah, that's good games, we would have got to the move no matter what. So if you do happen to run into that team, that's kind of how you have to try and play it. I think we run into that team twice. Gligar lead, not a very good lead, but we do have 2 pretty decent answers to it. The opponent comes into a Greedent here, and now we're up on energy. Now, I regrettably go for CMP tie, I could have got an extra free rollout. Definitely on the swap like that, try not to be too impatient, try to go for the extra, try to get the opponent to make the first mistake. The opponent did make the first mistake, however I returned it and ended up turning it into my mistake, right? It's very easy to turn your opponent's mistakes into your own. We're going to go for good timing here for the rest of this matchup though. I realise that even if we lose Switch here, we can farm it down with Trevenant and come out with Threatening Energy for Gligar. Basically, if you land a Shadow Ball in Gligar, you can farm them the whole way down. And actually, I think you almost one-shot a Shadow Gligar with Shadow Ball, so they cannot let it go. The opponent here does not get to a last second move, and this is absolutely perfect. They come into Lickitung, we even get off another move on this. And this is quite a unique situation. We're going to be putting our Trevenant on the Lickitung, which is kind of insane to think about. But, you know, as much as this is a negative matchup for Trevenant, on paper, you're going to have a look here. Power Whip, yeah, it's a resisted move, it hurts more than Body Slam. But this match is not unplayable, far from it. Because as you're about to see here, Seed Bomb number 1 coming through, that chunks, and they come into Gligar. They're going to get farmed the whole way down here. Now, I could have easily let one of these moves go, especially because the Lickitung was Power Whip, but I knew that they weren't at it, and I decided, okay, we're going to shield farm the whole way down, and we are just going to absolutely Icy Wind the already low attack Lickitung into oblivion. They're in the yellow health, they know the story here, they let that move through. They have 2 shields, and they're going to take them into the next match. Hopping into this one, we go into a Lantern lead, fantastic lead for us here, and they come into Dragonair. I go for a couple of Shadow Claws, and then come into my Dugong. Bit of a boomer swap here, but that's perfectly fine. It's always nice getting a few Shadow Claws through, because the opponent will end up farming you down at some point, and having that extra energy can be quite useful on the other side. Icy Wind coming through, the opponent lets it through. I should have just probably zero bubbled it and tried to get an extra farm, just to lower my health a bit, because they're about to just farm me the whole way down here. Now, one Seed Bomb does not KO a Lantern, so this is quite nice. I would have had to have thrown 2 moves on Trevenant anyway. They farm up to, I believe, 7. So this is basically the equivalent of a normal matchup. We've got a couple of Shadow Claws, they've got 7. And they're going to get off the Thunderbolt, and in comes an Altaria. Now what I decided to do here, because this is, like I said, an awkward matchup for Dunsparce. You've seen earlier, they comfortably survive. I decided, okay, we front load that, we get the shield, and then come in here and just basically go for 2 Rock Slides. I can even shield the Dunsparce here if I want to, and come out and go for a Drill Run. Pretty much any one move of mine will be able to take them out. Now the problem is, guys, we have misaligned the Switch Clock by about 15 to 20 seconds by staying in, throwing the extra Shadow Claws and going for the Shadow Ball. So we're about 20 seconds misaligned here. I can see in my Switch timer, that it is coming up to roughly that time. So I decide, okay, they have their switch clock. I'm going to go for a drill run, expecting them to come in and snipe with the lantern. The opponent doesn't do it, bro. Anytime that I do that, it never works, chat. It never fucking works. But anytime that I don't do it, they come in and snipe. You hate to see it, folks. You absolutely hate to see it. But yeah, we're just going to shield this up. This is perfectly fine here. And we're going to look to basically farm up. But yeah, it was pretty much over. We would just go for the CMP in the move. And then basically look to farm down the Altaria. In comes Azu. Guys, this is the hardest lead for this team, I swear to you. What do I do with this thing? They always have shit in the back that I just cannot deal with. Wigglytuff. I think Dugong does pretty fine here though. So we're going to go for this. The opponent goes for a shield off the rip. So I'm pretty happy to see that. Now I'm expecting an Icy Wind here. Yep, they go straight for this. Of course, they wanted to lower the damage, which is why they shielded up the first move. Makes sense. Sometimes they do catch you off guard and go for a Disarming Voice. The pacing to these is not too terrible for a Wiggly. It's 8 for a bloody Icy Wind and it's 5 on Dugong. You know, if you think about the fast move pressure, that's not really a lot of difference in energy. Like, it takes us 5, 4, and it takes him 8. I guess it is quite a lot of difference, but, you know, it's not like crazy. Back in comes Azu. I decided to go for Icy Wind this time, because basically what keeps happening in this Azu match is they'll get a huge farm down. Look at this, they're farming down the Dugong with their bloody bubbles. I'm giving them extra farm. And I realize here, okay, they're going to insta-throw Andy the Ice Beam. So I sort of need to just come in here with Dunsparce and absorb these. The opponent's still over farming, and they come into a Charge-a-Bug. Ladies and gents, this is not an answer. Dunsparce absolutely dunks all over this thing. However, like, this could still be awkward. The opponent still has an Ice Beam loaded. Like, we're still not out of the woods here. Charge-a-Bug is very, very strong. Now, here's my mistake in this matchup. I did not go for an undercharge. If I go for an undercharge, come Trevenant, I win. And very, very comfortably at that. So yeah, we shield up the Ice Beam from the Azu. And we basically, I think, need to get to 2 moves here, because of course they have the shield. So yeah, I think that was my win con there. Just basically undercharging, coming in with Trevenant, and just trying to get ahead in energy. As you can see here though, yeah, Ice Beam, it's going to take me out. I thought I lived it from there. Unfortunately, I don't. And you're going to see how much a drill run does. It does less than half of what they've got remaining. Azu pretty dominant into this thing, and yeah, I just instantly top left after seeing that. Good games. And a little bit of tree on tree once again. We'll see what the opponent comes into. They stay in with the tree this time. Now, if you go for Seed Bomb, you can basically shield once, farm it the whole way down. I just throw the Seed Bomb. I'm like, hey, this is a Seed Bomb. Do you want to get farmed down? They said, yeah, farm me down, daddy. So I'm like, okay, shield once, farm down, sounds good. I should have probably tried to catch that Shadow Ball, but it's hard to know when they're going to go for it. And in comes Wigglers. I go for one Shadow Ball and swap straight out into our Dunsparce. I think Dugong is our actual answer to this thing. And I'm thinking, what is this in the back now? Could this be dirty Bastiodon? The opponent's shielding up their Wigglytuff as they did before. So I'm thinking like, oh, how do I beat this Bastiodon in the back? Or maybe it's Victreebel. If it's Victreebel, that's probably going to be game, set, and match for us. Yeah, Drill Run coming through. We're going to go for another one, but unfortunately we don't quite get there. Now what I decide to do is, okay, if it's either Bastiodon or Vic, I need to get energy lead on Dugong. So I'm going to come in here and overfarm. I'm going to go for a CMP sack swap on the Trevenant. This is absolutely huge, because it means the opponent's only going to get one fast move through, but we actually have loaded energy on the Dugong now. Now, I decided I need to go for an Icy Wind to lower this smackdown damage. I wasn't expecting the opponent to shield, but they actually do shield it. That is absolutely massive for me here. That is my win con found, because we need to land 2 of these moves. And as you guys can see, these smackdowns are really, really adding up. Had I not got the debuff, I don't think I was getting to this move. I think I absolutely was not getting to the move. The opponent will not get to 2. We're going to go for a Drill Run that will take them out. Very, very fortunate to win that match in the end. The opponent's playing the Toxic team, except for using Trevenant instead of Victreebel. Very, very interesting one. I guess the opponent realizing that Trevenant is quite good into the flyers as well. Trevenant versus Charge-a-Bug. I hate it. This is cringe, guys. This is very cringe. I'm kind of like Ebia weak to this in a way, but Trevenant does beat it. So I'm like, right, okay, I'll eat the X-Scissor, and I'm going to go for a Seed Bomb bait here, just as they're getting to their next move. I think the opponent has to shield this because it's going to one-shot, but they call it. I mean, fair play to you, bro. You called it. It's just rough. I'm like, okay, well, look, I've failed my bait. I'm just going to go for another Seed Bomb. We'll get a slight overfarm, try to get a shield back off the opponent. They let it through. And yeah, this is a little bit tricky. They come into a Gligar. I just basically stay right here. Even though I made that mistake in the match, well, I guess it's a 50-50. Most people shield that, right? So I don't necessarily think it's a mistake. But even though we got our bait called, we did take alignment, and that looks like it's going to be very, very useful in this matchup. This is a horrible matchup for them, and they come into a Jellicent. Now, this Jellicent is on Bubble, so this match is not quite over. I maybe arguably could have went for a debuff before I left. I did try to hold on to the energy for the Gligar. The Gligar still does have some energy, so if I dump my energy here, it could be looking a little bit tricky. By the looks of things, I pretty comfortably live 2 Surfs. Now, I need to get off 2 more moves with Dunsparce. Otherwise, it's probably just a little bit too much for Dugong to do. The opponent's going to basically need a Shadow Ball on the Dugong. The opponent throws right before we get to the move. Very nice timing and counting by the opponent. And this is tricky. Now, I'm going to basically come in here, go straight for the Icy Wind, just to basically lower any Shadow Ball damage, to mean that they cannot possibly two-shot me. The opponent's over farming, they build up to the Shadow Ball, and I see that the Gligar comes back. I'm getting rid of this instantly. I do not want them to dig me or Aerial Ace me into Shadow Ball range. And now this is going to be a race, guys. Can we outpace them to the move or get the farm down? This is really, really close. They're going to get to the move. The opponent ends up dying with the move in a very, very close match to finish out. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please drop a like, subscribe. Try this team, man. It worked out really well for me. Core breaks a lot of the most common teams. And the great thing about this team is it's not just your basic team that you see absolutely everywhere that somebody just copied and pasted off Twitter. This is an original team. The opponent is not going to know what you've got in the back, and the Pokemon that are in the back can do very well to core break the meta. Guys, we'll have a little bit of a chat about the ELO at the end, because I know you guys like to follow along to see how I'm getting on. As you guys know, I think last week, or like less than a week ago, I got up to 29.97. I ended up dropping down from 29.97 to 26.50, or like around 2700. And at that point, I started to get a little bit frustrated with the game, and I was invited to do a Battle of the Spice with Callum, so I ended up tanking my ELO down to like 2300. Doing battles with Eevee, which I showcased in the last video. I've been using and showcasing some off-meta picks, things like Noctowl, which are a little bit more difficult to run, things like a Mulga, and of course that Eevee team. So I've basically climbed up now over the last couple of days from about 2300 ELO to basically just above 2500. So, I mean, hopefully we can get the legend push, but to be honest with you guys, the Great League is very, very difficult at the minute. I do find the matches a lot harder, actually, around 2300 to expert. The reason being is because, you know, I'm not the most amazing player in the world, but whenever I'm trying to anticipate what my opponents are going to do, I anticipate what a good player would do most of the time, and it oftentimes does not work out that way. Whenever I'm trying to read a backline or predict a team, I predict a team that makes sense, and, you know, they don't always do, right? So, it can be a little bit tricky. So, any of you guys who are sort of in this ELO range, it is very, very tricky. I'm a little bit disappointed that I've not been able to climb back up here very, very fast, right? Of course, my favorite type of video to do is like, I gained 300 ELO in 2 days, but unfortunately, I just haven't had a team that's really worked that way for me so far. We've basically been on a slow and steady climb. However, yesterday, we went 16 out of 25 with this team, and I may look to try that out for the next couple of days. If I decide, you know, if I catch any good Shadow Pokemon, I may end up tanking ELO to showcase a Shadow Pokemon, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning on in here. Appreciate you guys being here. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll hopefully catch you guys in the next day or two for a brand new video.